high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Catholic. I'm Jen Morrow, and with me today is Michael Walsh.
You could have said an exhausted Michael Walsh, a Michael Walsh in need of a nap, a Michael Walsh with gigantic bags under his eyes, a Mike Walsh that has aged about 10 years in the last week. Any of those things would be completely accurate. But a very happy Mike Walsh. As for anyone who didn't see me on camera recently on Tuesday, saw that they were like, I got more comments on, I don't know who that guy was who introduced the new bishop, new coadjutor bishop press conference.
Nice job.
But 10 a.m. and I was joyful and happy. And all it took was waking up at 5 a.m. No coffee either. By the way, remember when I told you you're going to have to tell me when to stop talking because I'm kind of punchy? This might be the time to do it because at the moment I haven't laid any of the groundwork for what the heck I'm talking about or anything.
You just jumped right in.
It's been a very busy week, folks.
It's been a very couple of busy weeks. As a matter of fact, we were talking yesterday that we've seen each other for at least 11 days in a row, including weekends, because we had a diaconate ordination and then a priest ordination and then the priest's first mass and then the announcement of a new coadjutor bishop. And so I can't wait not to see you for a couple of days when the Memorial Weekend comes.
Yeah. No one that I work with will see me until the day after Memorial Day. I refuse to be seen by any of my colleagues. But it would be nice to see my family, so that'll be a nice twist.
I bet they'll be happy to see you, too.
No guarantees.
Yes, so anybody tuning in, it has been a big couple of weeks in the Diocese of Camden. And as Mike said, in addition to diaconate and our priest ordination, he introduced the new coadjutor bishop.
No, I think we're currently 1 for 3. So we're gonna cut out ourselves
coadjutor
and bringing our guest today, the chancellor of the Diocese of Camden, Father Jason Rocks, who is just literally clawing his ears off as we're saying the name wrong.
Now look, I'm a butcher of all languages, okay, but even I get coadjutor right. All right? Let's get that straight.
I blame Mike because I had it right.
But yes, we did name the Holy Father did name a coadjutor for the Diocese of Camden. And Bishop Williams, I think, will do well here. Mm-hmm. He'll be a little different because he's not from the East Coast. All of our bishops have either primarily come from New York or Newark, mm-hmm. With the exception of Bishop Galante from Philadelphia and one bishop, Archbishop Damiano, who is technically from Buffalo through the Holy See, we'll say.
Yeah.
I'll just keep it that way. Mm-hmm. Make it simple. But so it'll be a little bit different because it's a little bit different out there.
He's from Minneapolis, St. Paul in Minneapolis, Archdiocese of...
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Born in Stillwater, I believe.
That's correct.
Family lives in Stillwater.
Mm-hmm. One of 9 children, mm-hmm. and he's 50 years old, if I remember correctly.
He is. He's younger than I am.
Yes.
So I didn't think I would be older than the bishop at this age.
I got news for you. Neither did I.
I figured maybe when I was in the 60s, I might be older than a bishop, but not now.
And let's put it this way. At the beginning of this month, he was 49. Mm-hmm. Just to put a little stab further into that.
That's right.
So Bishop Joseph Williams spent a rapid 48 hours with us here in South Jersey. Had a great time with him. For those of you who were hoping that our first episode would have him on, that was wishful thinking, because we really put him through his paces for the first 2 days he was here. He arrived late on Monday afternoon, had a meal with Bishop Sullivan and some of the priests of the diocese that evening, and then had his announcement at 6 a.m. the following morning, which I was up at 5 a.m. as well as all my colleagues. As a matter of fact, I'm fairly certain the one to my left may not have slept the night before.
She did not.
She was also convinced Bishop Barron was going to be our bishop, so that was kind of a surprise, but...
First I was convinced. Am I allowed to say this on the air? First, I was convinced that Bishop Sullivan was going to be named a cardinal and stay for another couple of years.
Oh, that's right. She wasn't sure it was going to be a bishop announcement at all.
I was not convinced. These are my out of left field. Yeah, at 2:30, 3:30, 4:30 in the morning. And then I thought, oh, maybe it'll be Bishop Barron, even though he just became the bishop, so of his own diocese. So I know that's not possible, but and then it wasn't too far off because Bishop Sullivan gets to stay for another year, and Bishop Williams is from the Midwest in the same area. So I feel like I still kind of won a little bit.
No, you didn't, but I like that you tried. So that morning, we had to wait until 6 a.m. because Pope Francis makes all of his announcements in noon Rome time. So that was 6 a.m. our time. So we were scurrying to make sure that it was actually on the website because we couldn't announce anything till it was literally on the website. We did, and we immediately unloaded all of our social media, which had been waiting for us to get that out there, uploaded our website. And then uploaded our website. The USCCB put out their information at the same time, and they were the only people that beat us. Oh, no, I take that back. There was one reporter from NCR who was apparently, I don't know, somewhere near the Vatican website or something, and he saw it before I did. So but he just had a little blurb up there. So well done, sir, for beating me to the punch. But we were able to keep it a secret and as it's supposed to be, and make the announcement, and it was great. And then we had his press conference at 10 a.m. In the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception in Camden, in front of media and all of the Chancery staff and Pastoral Center staff and Catholic Charity staff.
And the deans.
Deans were there as well. True. Chancellor was there, enjoying himself. And then...
Were you enjoying yourself, Father Ross?
Yes.
and then Bishop Williams went to lunch with Bishop Sullivan and had a meal with the deans and Board of Consultors.
The consultors, that's correct.
They were there. And then, hold on, let me go through the rest of the agenda, because then I'm going to go backwards and we'll actually talk about everything. And then he went to visit the Catholic Charities.
He also celebrated Mass.
Okay, fine. It's been a long day. He also celebrated Mass after we were done, after he met everybody in the diocese offices at the end of his press conference. Then we had Mass. No, sorry. Then he had lunch. Then we had Mass. Then he had lunch. Mm-hmm. Then he visited Catholic Charities. Then he visited the retired priests at the retired priest home in Cherry Hill. And then he went back for another meal with Bishop and Father Hughes and met another select group of priests. And then the following morning, he visited St. Margaret's School in Woodbury Heights. And then he hopped a plane back to Minneapolis. And I believe at some point may have fallen asleep. Except that I do know he was emailing us from 30,000 feet at one point as well. Though. So.
He did say he slept well when he came, and that was good.
Yes.
So he was very enthusiastic about being here. He was really just wanted to meet people and just kind of ease into it. And
he did not ease into anything.
No, we threw him right in, and he's very personal. Just wanted to shake everyone's hand and
really
say hello, and wanted to know about you.
Yeah,
so that's. I think he's going to do very well. Because he was very impressed that Bishop Sullivan had done so many of those things. Bishop Sullivan, was always around.
Yeah,
that's. I always remember the one story. He was only here maybe about a month, and. Maybe 2 months. And somebody just, Bishop gets invited to just about everything. And somebody said, they had invited him to a May crowning with the school or something like that. And somebody said, Father, the bishop's here. He's like, what? And there he was. He's like, oh my gosh. So, Bishop Williams seems to want to do similar things. He wants to be out there. He wants to get to know people and to get to know the parishes. And by being a coadjutor for that time period, he'll be able to really kind of ease into the diocese, not just kind of get thrown right in.
Mm-hmm.
So that by the time he does succeed Bishop Sullivan, he'll really know the diocese, he'll know the needs, he'll know the people, the parishes, he'll know his staff, and it'll be kind of a very nice, easy transition as he moves into that. So that should be really good. All that getting to know people will be done by Christmas, to be honest with you.
That's a good reminder that while he has been announced, and this is a joyous time in the diocese, and he'll have a role to play. Bishop Sullivan is still the boss man, until his retirement on March 17th of 2025 when
Trying
he
to keep
turns
him longer.
80.
Wait until he finds out.
I don't think so. Man
that'd
has
be the
been.
end of you, man.
He's been. He said, and I'm not telling tales out of school. Every Chrism Mass that we've had, every major Mass that we've had in that time, he said, I'm happy to be here, but I keep expecting to get the call someday. So he has been looking forward to getting the call from the papal nuncio. And it finally happened, and it was I spoke to him a little bit about it, and he's very excited about. To your point, he was very excited about it, very happy. Bishop Williams does seem to be cut from similar cloth.
Right.
The only difference is Bishop Williams doesn't have a lot of chancery experience. He's only been a bishop for 2 years.
2 years with limited diocesan administration.
Yeah.
He is, if I'm recalling, he's the vicar for Latino ministry in the diocese, which I would think he's basically the bishop for that community.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's been easing into all those things. But he has been a parish priest. He's been a pastor. He understands those things. And pretty much that's what he's done for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, he comes in with all that experience as a pastor, similar to Bishop Sullivan. Right? And right from the get-go, almost from day one of his ordination, been involved with Latino ministry. Same thing with Bishop Sullivan. So there is that overlap or what they have in similarities, right? It'll be a little different. He's not. It'll be different. Like when he starts to drive out here, that's when he'll learn he's not at home, right?
Right.
As my buddy from Indianapolis used to say, he would come out here after being home in the summer and like, Chris, what's wrong with you? That's not the way you drive. You got to be more aggressive. And then you get home and everybody's, what's wrong with you? Why are you driving so aggressively? So he'll learn.
He's already said, we've talked a little bit about his sports rooting interests. He's a fan of all the major sports, also a tennis player and an avid cyclist. But he seems quite comfortable with rooting for any Philadelphia team not named the Eagles. He says he's got no love for the Eagles because we beat them. We beat the Vikings on our way to our first ever Super Bowl, which we then won in the stadium of the Vikings. And so, he was very happy we did not give him an Eagles jersey as his first gift.
He'll come around, don't worry.
Though that being said, I will say I've gotten a lot of, we talked during the press conference, Bishop Sullivan gave him a Phillies jersey with his name on the back and his future number as the 9th Bishop of Camden. So he's got Williams 9 on the back of his Phillies jersey, which I might say fits perfectly.
It did. I saw that.
I was very nervous about that, and
it was a perfect fit.
It was an excellent fit. So we got to make sure we don't because he's a cyclist because we can't put any weight on him. I'm not sure there was too much extra space in there, but I
thought it was cute though too because he'll the future 9th Bishop of Camden, but he's also one of 9 children.
That's true.
So I think that is perfect. I bet his family's going to thoroughly enjoy that as well.
We should also mention one of his brothers is also a priest.
That's correct.
Yeah. So it's definitely runs with a good Catholic family over there.
Yeah.
Is he a Knights of Columbus?
He is.
Somebody mentioned that to me.
He is. He's a 4th degree, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Ray Sands, our the secretary for the state of New Jersey. He was the one that found district. I can't remember his title now. Sorry, Ray. He asked about that and found out that he was a 4th degree. So it was very good. Yeah. This is a extra special thing, but let's talk a little bit about, because this is going to happen a lot. Oh, actually, before I go to that, I was just given a question to ask you, Father Rox, on the podcast. It's a liturgical question related to Bishop Williams. So, during the Mass, when we say, the priest will say, out in the parishes and stuff like that, we pray for our Bishop, Dennis. How will we pray for our coadjutor bishop?
So
during Mass.
That's a good question. First thing, I think sometimes because we're not always engaged when we do our liturgical prayers, particularly prayers that we say all the time. We can kind of say them and not really think about them. Like we know what they mean and we intend to say them when we say them, but to really flesh that out a little bit. It's important that we pray for the Holy Father and our bishop because it shows that we are in communion with the Catholic Church, right? And generally when you have auxiliary bishops or assistant bishops, you will add them as well because they they share in his pastoral ministry to the diocese, right? And so they're associated with him, right? They share that communion. We will eventually send out a memo to all the priests to say, this is how you should say that. I don't recall, because we've never had a coadjutor here, and I've never been in a diocese where they had one. If we would say coadjutor or just assistant bishop or, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we just have to figure out the vocabulary, but his name can be mentioned, particularly once he comes and takes canonical possession, so to speak, or actually is shows that he's been assigned here as the coadjutor.
Okay.
Takes the office, so to speak.
Well, the rector of the cathedral sang mass in about 35 minutes, so if you want to text him, he was the one that asked me the question.
Right, and we were not like, I don't know that we would start to. We were looking into whether or not we would say his name now or wait until actually he comes and presents the documentation.
Yeah.
There's probably no real harm if you do say it because he has been named. So,
and
that's a done.
From a technical standpoint, I mean, because of the manner in which he's not a coadjutor elect, he's coadjutor, and
right
now a priest of Camden.
Without splitting hairs,
yeah.
Until he actually comes and shows the decree of the bull from the Holy See to Bishop Sullivan and the College of Consultors in front of the chancellor, he's not officially there.
Yeah,
it's you're in a weird place,
a weird canonical place,
because you have to go, and part of that is to give everybody time to. You want to give him time to be able to settle affairs there, because keep in mind, it's not like he found out in December.
Right.
Oh, by the way, we're going to do this to you in May.
Right.
He found out about the same time as Bishop Sullivan found out. Right. So he's only known this for like a couple weeks. He has to get all of his affairs in order to be able to move out here.
Yeah.
Right. So he does have some time, and usually you have about 2 months to actually do that. So we're just waiting to settle all those particulars. And once we have more of those particulars settled, we'll be able to give more information to the parishes and to the priests about how we would do this and when we would say these things.
So for listeners who want to know more about what happened on Tuesday with the press conference and the Mass, both were live streamed, so you can hear it on our diocesan media platforms. But I thought it was interesting what you kind of were just saying. Just he found out around the same time Bishop Sullivan, and he related a story about how he got a telephone call from the nuncio and saying, I'm sorry, Bishop Williams, I don't mean to disturb you, but I'm about to disturb you, by sending him the news. I thought that was a very clever way to put that, because, he's about to be picked up and moved to another area that is totally foreign to him.
Correct.
And yet on the same accord, he mentioned, our God is a God of surprises, and he's a ministry, disciple. He wants to go out. Yeah.
Correct. And he's definitely someone who responds to God's call and sees divine providence working through the church and the hierarchy, so that he's able to accept, like, okay, well, this is God's will for me, and I'm going to embrace it and give myself to it, right? And that will actually be a blessing to all of us, because that's the spiritual tradition right there, right? To live in the moment and to embrace the moment and to embrace what comes your way as God's will, and to take that on in the example of Jesus Christ, right? I didn't come to do my will, but the will of the one who sent me. And so I think that we'll see that with him, as we've seen really with all of our bishops that we've had in the diocese. So I think he's going to bring a good ministry here. I think he's going to really be engaging, and he's going to continue to, like, his purposes and his ideas, like, well, good things are happening. Let's build on that and keep going.
Yeah.
We're going to keep going forward. That's what we have to do. And he'll also bring some new ways and some new things, as any bishop would. So that too will be interesting to see how he engages with some of that, and particularly as we move into a time of really, as Pope Francis had said, we're in a change of epics, right? The era is changing, right? There's a change of time. And we as a church need to figure out, well, how do we engage that time? And we're probably doing so in a way that we haven't really engaged since the time of the apostles. A society that just kind of doesn't know anything about the Christian God, and really bringing that message to them, right? And learning new ways to do that. And so I think he's going to come with some of that background and say, hey, let's try and engage it this way, right? So I'm looking forward to it.
And also a part of his CV, for lack of a better word, explains that. And
that's the actual word.
Yeah, there you go. And then also, does it apply also for...
Yeah, no, that's what I was sent. I was sent his curriculum vitae.
Okay. So, fancy.
It's the only Latin I know.
He gets that word right.
Yeah. I was going to say, you want to try the other word again?
He gets a real tongue
coadjutor.
There you go.
Hey!
There you go.
But in his CV, and he even spoke about it during the news conference, his passion for Latino and the Spanish-speaking communities, and how he, I believe when he was a pastor, would go door to door trying to minister to the Hispanic communities and bring them into church or let them know they're welcome.
Correct. And that's a big thing, too, is that with the Latino communities, they're diverse. Right? We have a tendency to say, oh, they're Spanish. Right?
Yeah.
They're diverse communities. They have different cultural backgrounds, different devotions and things like that. Some of it overlaps, but different ways of expressing their faith. But also a lot of them, in terms of they're coming up from where the church was slightly different in Colombia or El Salvador, right? And trying to help them to engage and say, no, this is how we do these things here. Like, we need you to register, or we need you to be more involved this way in terms of support and things like that. But also, they're coming from a place where maybe the church is still a little bit more present in society in general in terms of giving it like a guidance, to some place where you're just kind of left on your own, and you can kind of fall away and try to say, no, here's where you should be. Here's where we want to help you get back to, right? So,
somebody, I'm not going to say who, somebody asked me afterward later on Tuesday, do you think Bishop Williams has ever been to the ocean? And I was like, what? And he was like, well, one day when he's here and we have the wedding of the sea, and he might have to go in the boat out on the Atlantic Ocean. What if he's never been to the beach? I was like, just because he's in the Midwest, it's not the 1800s. There's planes. You can travel.
I actually didn't think to ask him.
I don't, I know.
He's been to the beach.
Did you find out?
I found out he has celebrated Mass in Florida and been to a beach.
Oh, okay, that's right. I do remember that story, yes. That's a good point.
So, I don't know that he's ever been to the Jersey Shore. He's looking forward to actually seeing that and being there. And we were very clear that we have the best shore in the whole country, and it's the best shore in all of New Jersey.
I mean, it stops at Brigantine, but yes, it is the best.
Yeah, and so he is looking forward to that. He is really fascinated by how diverse the diocese is, in the sense that we have urban areas and areas of dense population, and we do have more rural areas that still are wooded and are farmland. So he was interested in that. He's interested in going out and seeing all these things and experiencing all of that, and he will. I think he'll be around.
I think he mentioned in a meeting I was in with him that he noticed remarkable similarities between South Jersey and Minneapolis, St. Paul, for just those very reasons.
Right.
Different populations than we have here, but just as much diversity.
Right.
So it's he's genuinely looking forward to it, and I've been in, I was at 3 events with him and 1 meeting with him, and he does genuinely, while he's here, want to talk to everybody, and will to the difficulty of those of us who are trying to keep things on time, because he really is very happy to sit and chat, and he's very present. Like, he's not waiting for you to finish so he can get to the next guy. He's waiting for you to finish your story so that you finish your story, and he'll know more about you. So it's been It's been lovely. I mean, it is a personality change. I mean, this is not a bad thing. People have been asking me, what's it going to be like to go from a guy from the Bronx to the guy from the Midwest? I'm like, well, it's going to be a change, but, it just means I'll adapt to it, and that's fine by me.
Right. Yeah.
So
It was funny because in the press conference, he mentions that he took German in high school and college. And so when I went to meet him and shake his hand, I spoke German to him because I speak German. And he kind of laughed and spoke German back. And it was very, rudimentary. And then I said, do you want me to speak slow? He's like, it was high school and college, Jen. And he said, but when I have to preach with the Germans in South Jersey, I'll call you. And I said, well, I've been here for 3 years and I haven't found any yet. So you call, you let me know.
But if you go over to the Amish country, you'll find a bunch.
Oh, so, yeah.
And actually, we have a number of wonderful Amish markets in South Jersey where some of them do speak a bit German. So you never know when he's going to be able to pull that out. So,
I believe it. But his Spanish is perfect.
And his French is pretty good as well. And
did he speak French?
He speaks French as well. I think he's working on, I can't remember if he said 4 or 5 languages.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and it's because it's just something he enjoys. It wasn't necessarily on the job. He just likes learning languages. So he's a unique guy. He loves to. Like I said before, he's an avid cyclist. He was telling a story at St. Margaret's School when we were having a sit down with the student leaders there, that he has a fat tire bike. Actually, I think he has 2 fat tire bikes, and they're designed with these 4-inch wide wheels. And he and his friends, after a snowfall, will go out and you ride on top of the snow.
Holy moly!
Yeah, I know, right? And so he was lamenting the fact that we don't get that much snow here, so it might not be something he can do. And I said, well, don't worry, Bishop, because down the shore we rent those bikes so you can go biking on all the shoreline, and we have one of the longest shorelines in all of the United States. So by all means, feel free to go up and down the South Jersey with that.
I feel a Diocese of Camden cycling team
I think
in the
you might
future.
be onto something.
What do you think?
It could happen. It could happen. We'll
I've been
see.
saying for years I would really like to stop having 5Ks. Can we, for those of us who are old men with bad knees, can we do bicycling instead? So if he wants to come up with like the Philadelphia Eagles have the Autism Foundation 20-mile and 30-mile ride,
Yeah, that
or
might be a bit much for you. I think your speed is more like a rocking chair for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I can do that. That's nailed it. For anyone who saw the live stream, I referred to myself as the monolith from 2001, the movie 2001, walking out. I very rarely wear black suits, and I know why, because oh boy, that was a lot of man walking out from the sacristy. I don't appear on TV very often, so it was like, oh. Okay, that's what I look like. All right, now we're talking.
You do, Hal. You do.
I did not notice how... Thank you. Thank you for the 2001 reference. I did not realize how bushy my goatee had gotten. I actually trimmed it up last night because I saw myself on TV. I was like, oh, boy, okay, I'm a little too big.
Well, I did hear some people say, oh, Santa.
It was having that Santa feel to it, so you're absolutely right. But that, I got to tell you, so... I found out when I found out, and I had some time to prepare for this, and it was a very stressful situation, but such a positive situation. Like it was drama free from beginning to end.
Right, and I think some of that is Bishop Williams is very relaxed. I do think so.
Bishop Sullivan,
and Bishop Sullivan was just like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we're gonna open our arms. We're gonna welcome him, and we're gonna try to keep this simple, but do like a million things, which is very typical of Bishop Sullivan. And that's what we did, And we try to expose him a little bit to some of the groups and give him an opportunity to just kind of ask questions, whatever he really wanted. And most of his questions were more about how long have you been ordained? What do you do for fun? That type of stuff. So that was nice, because he knows, hey, I'm going to be here in a couple months, and I'm going to hit the ground running when I'm here, and we'll get things moving,
Yeah.
And by the time he comes, that's when everything starts back up.
Right.
Schools will be starting up. All the diocesan meetings will be starting back up. Summer will be done. So in that time period. Like, he'll just be thrown right into it. But with the ease of knowing that, well, Bishop Sullivan's going to make the decision.
Yeah. So that,
but he would be consulted on all that. That's the major things, that he'll be consulted on all those things, and he'll take part in all that decision making in a sense.
And he'll have an office in the chancery, and he'll be near there, and he's going to be living in the residence with Bishop Sullivan and Father Hughes and Father Nevitt, which is nice. So, he'll get a lot of. I assume that's nice. Actually, I've never lived with the four of them, so I'm going to assume. I'm assuming it's nice. But it's they are wonderful. I know Father Hughes is a fantastic cook, and they have.
But he seldom cooks.
I know, that's the sad part of it. But he's a very good cook. So
he only cooks when we're not there.
I do fear we're going to fatten up Father Williams or Bishop Williams a bit.
Not if he's the avid cycler.
Yes, that's true.
We really need to give him a map of all the biking trails in Jersey.
And that's one of the things, like, he was interested in, like, well, where do you go hiking? What do you do? Tell me more about these things, And living in the residence isn't bad. It's quiet for the most part.
As someone who lived there for a couple of years yourself.
And then it's perfect for a lot of the different meetings or different things that the bishop has to do. So it's a... I mean, I know it's a big place, but it's not that big. It's kind of homely.
Yeah.
It's very comfortable living there.
Oh, it's, people joke about they're like, it's laughingly referred to as a mansion, which it's only a mansion if you've never actually seen a mansion.
Right. And that's only because that's what the college called it, the university called it, the president's mansion, right?
Right. But hardly a mansion.
Right.
It can fit 4 grown men, but that's about it. So, or one large family is about what it can do. But it's a lovely place. But it's quaint and quiet, and it's in a good section of Woodbury. And he's very excited about that because his brother's parish is also in a town in Minneapolis called Woodbury. So he appreciates some of the symmetry in his life here. The thing that's sort of come out the most is not the most, but the thing that I wasn't prepared for was just how close knit his family is. I will admit that there's a part of me that's actually sad that we're taking him away from his family because they are a very tight knit community and seem to love each other immensely. Which reminds me, I have the address for the parents. We need to send them 12 copies of the Catholic Star Herald immediately.
Absolutely.
And we need to put Archbishop Hebda from Minneapolis on the mailing list as well. So he needs to start getting our stuff. So I have all of their
addresses,
or mailing addresses.
That's good. Yeah, I was talking to some fellow Catholics last night about this, actually, and speaking about what a close-knit family that is, and we were all agreeing we have to befriend him immediately so he knows that he's loved here and has friends here so he doesn't get lonely.
Right, and I think he will do that because he's rather friendly. Like you said, like he asks those questions, hey, how are you? And he lets you tell your story and he's interested. And he's not always looking, well, what's beyond you? You're it at that moment. So I think he will do well that way.
And he's arriving. I don't think we've said he should be arriving in August, September. We think.
So I just found out today that's not exactly accurate.
They're still working on figuring that out. There's not. I don't know how to put this. There's not like a rush to get here, but we want him here. They want him here.
And actually, I think there is a rush. I just saw this morning. He has to present his...
He's got to do it really in 2 months.
Yeah. He has to present his bull within the first 2 months. He's got a certain number of weeks. So he does actually have to go back, but it doesn't have to be a big deal. He just has to present it to the bishop
He can literally come in and we could just all be in the conference room and that would be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the pomp and circumstance might be later.
Right.
But he does need to come back a little sooner to meet with everybody.
Okay.
But we should talk about that because a lot of people have been asking about what's next. So it is going to be kind of fun. So we will have the papal bull will come. So the question really is, so he does not have he's not installed. An installation would suggest that he isn't already here. He's already here. He's going to get what's called a massive welcome. Instead, which has similar pomp and circumstance to an installation without being an installation.
Correct, and it's more a matter of like an introduction to the diocese and different things, and it'll mimic to some degrees the installation things. He won't be enthroned. like Bishop Sullivan was led to his cathedra and he sat down.
Mm-hmm.
That won't happen because he's not yet the bishop and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still important that he is presented to the diocese and makes himself known to them, and that is done through the principal representatives of the diocese. He does have that time. He needs to be here by a certain time to actually show his bull, and which is just the decree stating that he is the coadjutor with the right of succession of Camden. And at that time, he will, once he shows that document to Bishop Sullivan and the College of Consultors in the presence of the chancellor, that's it.
Yep.
That's official. Mm-hmm. Okay, and eventually that'll all be noted and all the signatures will be signed and so forth. He'll take an oath of office and profession of faith as you would whenever you do all those things for the church. He will have an office. They are assigned as the Vicar General. So we'll probably have 2 Vicar Generals for a while, which we've had in the past. Galante had 2 Vicar Generals. I think DeMarzio also.
All right, just because I'm going to get letters. It's Vicars General. If we say it
correct.
Every time I say it the other way around, I get yelled at.
Yeah, whatever.
So just people yell at me. Don't yell at Father Rox. Father Rox is lovely. He knows so much more stuff.
I'm not really worried about plurals and things like that. I'm from Jersey, okay?
Good point.
But we'll have 2 of them. And and they'll each have their competency and so forth. And he'll get to do, and he'll share a lot of the responsibilities with Bishop Sullivan in terms of some of the liturgical things, I'm sure. And he'll get around and make himself visible and get to know people. And he'll sit on all the boards and the councils and things like that. So it just kind of eases them into that point when the transition finally happens.
Mm-hmm. And then, so it's been announced that Bishop Sullivan will, on his birthday, March 17th. Mm-hmm. Now, is that the day that Bishop Williams is installed?
So,
no.
The basically, once very technically speaking, it happens automatically.
Right. Okay.
He will automatically be Bishop of Camden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if we do any other liturgical things like that, because we've never had a coadjutor, and quite honestly, I've never really paid much attention what happens when the coadjutor actually succeeds bishop.
When I looked into it, typically there's a special mass that day at the cathedral, but it will not be.
It won't be anything like.
There'll be no pomp and circumstance. It'll just be like a mass of Thanksgiving.
It's an automatic transition, which is why, again, they kind of do that. There's not that period of let's say they had done this differently and they said, okay, we accept here's your resignation, it's been accepted. Then he'd have 2 months, definitely he'd have to be here, like that would be it, right? But during that time period in between, he's not officially he doesn't have the office just yet, right? He's nominated. The bishop then usually who is the bishop, the ordinary, usually goes into what they call, they make him usually like an apostolic administrator. So he'll administer the diocese, but not make any major changes. Mm-hmm. So he would do things like just make sure that things that have to be done still get done, like dispensations for marriages and things like that. But he wouldn't change any personnel. He wouldn't suppress a parish, erect a parish. He wouldn't do any of those types of things. He wouldn't be able to. Okay. There won't be any of that transition period. It'll just go right into it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, Bishop Sullivan has full control. He's not an apostolic administrator. He's the bishop,
still the bishop.
So he can still do whatever he can do.
Correct.
All the things the bishop can do.
And so let's say Bishop Sullivan, decided, we need to do something with this particular thing here. Whether it be suppress a parish, erect a parish, somehow change the configuration of a deanery. Mm-hmm. He would go through all the normal things that he would do to do that, plus make sure that he's consulted with the coadjutor, because he's the one that's going to succeed him.
Yeah.
And get his counsel and consultation as well. So that's where all these things will go from this point. And that should not be that difficult. It should be rather easy. Mm-hmm. It'll be an easy transition, so that when he then becomes bishop, he already knows all those people.
Right.
Nothing really changes other than Joseph, our bishop.
Actually, there will be. I mean, that's not to say there won't be a big deal
Correct.
going on March 17th, because we will be celebrating Bishop
Right.
Sullivan's retirement. So
Right.
that will. I mean, there will be a big.
And the thing that I mean, I know that's what they keep saying. Well, when you turn 80,
yeah.
I want to see a letter. Don't trust it until you get a letter. That's all I'm going to say.
That is also true.
Make sure there's a letter, because
Just like the military.
and I'm sure that's all. If that's what they've told them, that's what they're probably going to do.
Yeah.
So that's also basically the middle of Lent. So Easter's not. Easter is like April. So can we have an installation mass
Bishop
during
Sullivan
Lent?
was
There won't be.
installed. Bishop Sullivan was installed Fat Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But also, there won't be an
But there
installation
won't be
mass.
there
Will not be an installation mass. That's
it's just
we were saying.
It's
Oh,
just a
wait.
seamless.
It's.
But there won't be
just-
one later?
No.
No, because he'll be automatically the bishop.
Yeah. There is no installation. So his papal bull is actually written
There'll-
differently.
There'll be
Oh,
kind
my
of
gosh.
There'll be kind of like we'll probably have some type of a celebration
Sure.
to note the event, but it won't be the same as like when Bishop Sullivan came and
Oh,
all
wow.
that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. It'll be a very
Oh.
seamless transition.
Okay, I thought
is
you
what
were
this would
just
happen.
talking about the behind the scenes. I didn't realize the actual
yeah.
mass as well.
Right.
Okay.
So everything will be slightly different. I mean, there'll be
that's what
there'll
we
be
were saying, that-
celebration. Because
Right.
it's something to be celebrated, something to be noted.
So that's what we were saying. The welcome
Not quite
mass is the avatar for an installation,
Right.
But without actually being an installation. But there is no installation because of the right of succession.
It's yeah. The whole
Blame the canon lawyers.
well,
Don't talk about Father Rocks like that.
it's it's just it's a very interesting thing to be the coadjutor because you're the successor and you are the coadjutor of the Diocese of Camden, of Camden. So there is already that connection there, right? And it's a good time for him, Bishop Williams, just to kind of, again, ease in, see how things are done, right? Get to know all the players and start to get to know things. And then it's just like a very nice, seamless transition as he actually takes the reins and begins to be the chief shepherd of the diocese, right?
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
So apparently, I was reading some of the background on coadjutors, and the USCCB had noted that in one of the requests of a lot of outgoing bishops has been to have coadjutors, so that because apparently this process is actually a lot easier on the diocese.
Correct.
It's a lot smoother than sort of the abruptness of a lot of these kinds of transitions. So
Correct.
I don't know if this is something we're going to see more often, or if this was something special to our situation.
Yeah. It's because there's no particular rhyme or reason for it, just to be kind of blunt, right? Coadjutors are named either because of the size of the diocese or the condition of the particular bishop. Maybe he just needs a little extra help. And they're usually named closer towards a retirement age, but not necessarily. I've seen them go a little bit more than a year as coadjutor, and for different reasons, right? But always with that right of succession. So they're always different than auxiliaries who do not have that right, okay? And so they're put together for different reasons to assist the bishop, but also then to really get ready to take the reins, so to speak, right? And it gives you that time to really just kind of figure out, okay, who's who, what's what needs to be done, what has been going on, how can we build on that, what do we need to do differently, and begin to really just make it an easier transition in. As to where, like, Bishop Sullivan came down and he was just like cold, and the very next day, like, okay, you're the bishop, here's a bunch of things you got to do.
Yeah.
Right?
And fortunately,
And not knowing anybody other than a couple people that he had met prior
Yeah.
to coming down, right?
and Bishop Williams is fortunate in the sense that his current archbishop was the coadjutor of the Archdiocese of Newark for several years. And with the anticipation of becoming the Archbishop of Newark, this was actually, I think it was during my time in the diocese that this occurred.
Yeah, this wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, and then because the Archdiocese of Minneapolis was in dire straits at that time. The Holy Father sort of switched things up and sent him there to help out the archdiocese, which he did shockingly well. They were having some definite troubles there. And he's done a great job sort of turning that archdiocese around and really putting them on a good path, which ironically then opened up Newark again, and suddenly we had two cardinals, one river apart, with the Cardinal Tobin.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, So we still don't know entirely why. It is peculiar that Bishop Williams is here. We don't know the reason, and I haven't heard any of the backstories. We all have our theories about how that happened, but it does kind of give you kind of feel like maybe there was a ripple effect in some way because Cardinal Tobin sits on the committee that chooses bishops. Correct. He's a part of that dicastery, and he's also the head of the province of New Jersey, so he would have some part in all that, right?
Yeah.
And how they came up with Bishop, I don't know. I mean, that's
Bishop Williams doesn't know.
That's always one of these mysteries. But I think he comes with a good background. Again, I think the fact that he spent so many years as a pastor speaks well. And I think he'll bring some of that pastoral side. Because that's one of the things when they look at Bishop Sullivan. Now, this is a man who ran the Archdiocese of New York as the Vicar General. Yet he comes down here and he knows how to run the diocese, but he seems to do it as if he's just the pastor, right, of a parish, right? That's kind of how he ran things, or at least that's how he was in terms of engaging with people and stuff. He wasn't really like aloof. No. And I think Bishop Williams will do a similar thing.
Yeah. In the old days, sort of in the 80s, 90s, 70s, well, actually through most of the history of the Catholic Church, the chancery was often really removed from parish life. People who worked in the chancery weren't typically pastors. They were people who had been administrators their entire lives and just never had that experience. And because of the changes in the Catholic Church, now you're seeing a lot more people with parish experience in chancery life, and I think that's helped chancery life.
And there had always been that sense, when they would look at, for people who would be like the Vicar General or the judicial vicar, the church had an expectation that they would be somebody who had been ordained a while, meaning that they had spent some time in a parish and had pastoral ministry, because that would be beneficial to what they would be doing, right? And we certainly do have that in our diocese, right? Father Hughes was a pastor for quite some time before he became a Vicar General. So he has a sense of what parish life is and what the pastors do and what they run into, But I do think that now you'll see more of that, particularly in our diocese, where somebody will have, they'll be a pastor and they'll have a diocesan position.
Like, say, the pastor of Holy Eucharist Parish and also be the chancellor of the diocese?
Correct. One of many things I get to do.
And the best guest of the award-winning podcast.
That's true.
That's correct.
You are a man of many hats. You want to talk Star Wars next, or
whatever you want? Right. I mean, that's
this is my first transition, and I feel blessed that it's been a very unique transition, atypical, because I love things that are atypical, and I just think it's one of those things that makes us better than everybody else. So we can handle curveballs with aplomb here. We are very comfortable with all sorts of different things.
It's funny because I know a lot of people in the military have a military family, and I think it's what it's called. It's called left seat, right seat, if I remember correctly. So if you're deployed and people are coming in to replace, you're going home and somebody, there's an overlap of a month or two, so that those who are deployed downrange can show the newbies coming in, these are the things we learned. This is what works, doesn't work. We want to keep you safe. And then they return home and the new guys stay in. And we were talking that this is like a left seat, right seat situation.
Right.
And how positive that is for the men and women on the ground in the military. And they said that, this made them happy because they've experienced that in their military lives.
Right. Yeah. So this should help him, just kind of adjust to, it's a big move for him, coming from Minneapolis out here, right? trying to figure out who's who, where things are, all that kind of stuff. So he'll be in a little bit of a culture shock, but I think he will adapt quickly because South Jersey is kind of laid back.
Yeah.
Once you get outside of Camden.
And we're a shockingly welcoming people. I mean, not me, but the rest of South Jersey are welcoming.
You can show them the good places to eat in Ocean City Boardwalk.
I will. I'll show them all the good places to eat. I'm not going to limit myself to Ocean City. I'll take them every place.
He will get he'll get a good taste of everything here in South Jersey.
Yeah, and all joking aside, we are a welcoming people. He will be invited everywhere.
He will.
He'll have to. His hard part. The hard part for him is going to be figuring out which ones he can go to and which ones he can't go to.
Right.
But he'll want to meet with everybody, and I think people will be pleased.
I think they'll be very
the
pleased.
feedback I've gotten so far, it's only been 48 hours. Well, 36, I think, at this point. But the feedback has all been. Man, I cannot do my math. That wasn't even close to being right. 72 hours. The feedback has all been very positive from the people who met him personally. The retired priests that met him seemed to be very happy. He seems to be very good at talking to you on your level. Like, he was great talking to the students that we met with at the school. Great talking to the retired priests that we met with. Went out of his way to talk to everybody at Catholic Charities. I know that he prefers Apple products, so that may throw the IT department into a loop. But I'm sure they can handle it.
I thought it was pretty nifty that, so as we talked about at the very beginning, we had a priest ordination over the weekend. Father Ricardo Lozano Cruz and his family are visiting from Colombia for the ordination, and they were still here for the announcement of the bishop.
Right.
And I was like, wow, what an experience.
I think they were at the mass, too.
They were. That's how I thought.
I was like, oh, there's his mom and sisters. So.
And more than that during the meet and greet after the installation, Bishop Williams asked for one of his first blessings. So there in the middle aisle of the cathedral was Ricardo blessing the new coadjutor Bishop of Camden. And did I get a photograph of it in time? No, I did not.
Ricardo goes very quickly.
He's a quick prayer. So it moved fast, but it was a lovely thing for him to do, Bishop to do, and a lovely thing for
Father Ricardo. Yeah.
And that was one of the other good things that we were able to have the seminarians there, and the two transitional deacons were there for him to meet them and start to get a rapport with them, because more than likely he will be the one to ordain them. And one of the things that Bishop Sullivan has done a very good job of, he knows all the seminarians, so he knows who he's ordaining, which is actually really important. That's one of the things the church really stresses with her bishops. You need to know the men that you are going to ordain. And don't, even though you entrust their formation to a faculty and a rector and all those types of things, you need to know them. And again, Bishop Sullivan, did that, and I think that's something that Bishop Williams would want to do as well. Just kind of get to know who it is that who he's laying hands on, and what their mindset is and what their spirituality is, and so forth.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have such a lovely group of seminarians. That's not a heavy lift right there. Our seminarians are absolutely delightful young men.
They are.
Yeah.
They're easily approachable. Great conversations I've had with them.
Yeah. I find it very unnerving because they all want to talk to me like I'm their best friend. And I'm like, dude, man, I got a job to do. Get out of my way. I'm just kidding. But they are lovely. And Bishop Williams, for those who are wondering if he'll ever appear on the podcast, I have no doubt that he will agree to it. So
I think he will. I really do think he will.
I actually think he might even get his own show of some kind. He seems to be
he might do that. I would not be surprised. I think he wants to engage the culture. And he wants to use every means possible to do so.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and we already know that he's familiar with Talking Catholic because he went up to one of our YouTube hosts' mother while he was here, and they had a lovely conversation. So he was talking to Lex Kiefer's mom, Nicole, about how much he enjoyed her video series. I don't know what else he's seen. He might have, if he's listened to the podcast, I may already be out of a job, but hopefully he enjoyed the video stuff.
We apologize in advance.
Actually, I really probably should start every podcast with just a blanket apology for whomever I have or about to offend. In which case, Father Rox, I apologize.
That's quite all right.
That's okay.
Wait, do I get an apology?
let's see what happens. But anyway, so it's an exciting time here in South Jersey. We're very much looking forward to it. And, there'll be a bit of a lull now until he returns. And then, we'll sort of gin up. But we're getting into the summertime, so things will be kind of, a little more low-key going forward. But gives us plenty of prep time. But, of course, we also have Bishop Sullivan's 25th anniversary coming up in 25th anniversary as a bishop coming up in September. So that's very exciting. So we're looking forward to celebrating that as well. And then we'll have all the fun stuff. So it'll be nice. It's going to be a very exciting time around here. So it'll be a lot of fun. Plus, I can't wait to see what this massive welcome looks like, because there'll be lots of pomp and circumstance.
And you love the pomp and circumstance.
I do. I love myself some pomp and circumstance. So, Father Rox, thank you very much for joining us today.
Anytime. Thank you.
Jen, thank you for being far more awake than I am. And to our listeners, thank you very much for checking us out. And we'll talk to you again next week. See you, everybody.